to go.
All right, should we start with the MSRAC?
We shall, sir.
Okay, calling to order at 9:00 according to my computer. So first up is the approval of the minutes. And my only comment was the date in 5J. It's even, that's a long time even for the state. So it probably should be 2022, huh?
I spotted that too.
Janet's coming in now.
Oh, terrific.
As long as we were starting it, what was the line item that we're correcting the
5J,
J?
the date.
Okay, 2022.
Gotcha.
Anything
There
else?
There she is.
There
All
I
right.
am.
I thought you might be dialing in from out of town based on your
No.
email. So I wondered if you were having trouble, but
I work too close up to the time limit. That's why.
Okay, I passed the baton. Back to you, Janet.
Okay. So let's see. Regular, all right, we got get to the right page of the agenda. So I guess we'll call to order this meeting, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the March 11th regular meeting.
yeah. So Steve just gave us a correction, which is a date in item 5J, in MSRAC, not in bar, right? MSRAC.
Right, yeah, we're in MSRAC. Item 5J, I see F. Oops, I gotta go.
Next to the last sentence of the minutes.
Actually, I don't see a J.
No, it's Jay Blanchett. It's the very last sentence of the minutes,
Oh, that one. Oh, yes.
early 2022.
I thought it was item J. Yep, you're right. Early 2022. Okay, and is there any other corrections to the minutes? Then can I have a motion to approve the minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
You both
Sorry,
moved and you
Vince.
both seconded.
Okay.
I'm
All in
just gonna-
favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, then the minutes are approved with that correction. Let's move on to item 3, correspondence under MSRAC. Any correspondence?
Nothing really. I mean, nothing that wouldn't be related to another actual agenda item.
Okay. Item 4, citizens' comments. Doesn't look like we have any citizens who are not committee members in here.
That is correct.
So then we'll move on to item 5, committee business. A, development of 630 Riverside Drive.
I don't really have anything to report, which is sort of annoying. Peter Lang called me last week to say he had some questions. I called him back. He was on the road and said he would come in to see me, and he has not done that, and I haven't had time to circle back.
And you have no idea what he was calling about, like someone interested?
Don't. Well, I think he has had someone sort of interested for a while.
Mhm.
He has asked me a couple of times to send him the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I mean, I've sent it to him at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So I don't ever know if it's the same person, a different person. And he didn't leave much in that message when I called him back. So I really don't know what it is. I did ask him to get in touch with Andy Scott because the last full conversation that he and I did have, there was an implication that that Andy is kind of waiting for us to foreclose on that property or put it up for auction sale, like it might be taking a nuisance off his plate, but that's hearsay, right? So I wanted him to narrow that down. In fact, it isn't even hearsay. It was my inference based on my conversation with Peter. So that's kind of what I'm hoping he was calling me back about, but I don't know.
Seems like enticing sort of lead for the land bank.
Exactly. And because the property is in tax arrears, it would be eligible to go up in this year's auction sale. So, you know, we really need to know, because the reason it hasn't been all this time is because we have been assuming it would be sensitive for the 929 deal. Until I'm confident that that's not the case, I certainly would not recommend that, you know, we kick a hornet's nest. But if he just wants to be rid of it, let's find out.
Right.
Right.
Maybe we don't even have to foreclose. Maybe you could just give it.
Well, that's, I'm sure, an option as well. That would have to be between him and us and the land bank altogether.
Right, exactly, because the town doesn't want to just own it.
Correct.
The liability is too great.
Correct.
Okay, well, thanks for that update. I guess we can move on to item B, DECD Communities Challenge Grant update.
They still haven't announced those, so, you know,
Okay.
there is no real update. Hopefully by the end of this month, I think well, I'm pretty sure they have to award it by the end of the fiscal year at the latest. So, but there is some rumor on the wind that the middle of this month is what they're targeting now.
Okay, great. So maybe we'll know for next month's meeting. So item C, River Mill update. I guess I have an update. Well, Tira knows the same thing too, and it's about the appeal period for the flood study. There was a very interesting email that we got sent that John Gumpert's consultant dealing with FEMA on another matter kind of like accidentally discovered that the appeal period opens on April 21st to appeal that flood elevation, that it's going to affect development of the mill. So that was really good information to know, because I know Tira's been on the state woman from DEP and she didn't even know it. So so I think, go ahead with Tira. So then what did you do? You got in contact with a consultant, and that's.
Well, I just emailed him back to say, you know, is there a role for us, meaning the town, to play in that appeal? I kind of feel like he's just going to write up the appeal and we have to be the ones to submit it. But he hasn't replied to that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be my understanding too. It would have a lot more weight if the town appeals it than any, developer of any particular property, because it affects a lot more than just his property. But I guess the hiring a consultant does cost money. Do we assume that John is going to continue to pay for him, because he did pay for him to do that initial letter when he reviewed the findings? And
I believe that is the case.
okay.
I did not talk to them about anything this week, quite coincidentally. I'm usually talking to him and Pam and Wayne at least once a week lately. We didn't have any calls scheduled this week, which is sort of surprising. But yeah, I will be sure, since we have that update now, the next time I talk to him, regardless of what the topic is, to ask about that. Now, he is going to be here this month in person. We're doing a site walk over at the mill with DEEP and with EPA. Not quite the same big rah-rah walk through the mill that we did 2 years ago, that June. we're going to
Mhm.
do something like that later on when the weather is even nicer and they're ready to actually sort of break ground on the grant funded activity. But there's some new folks at Deep who have been assigned to the project, so this will be to familiarize them. And everybody sort of check in, see what still needs to be done via either of those agencies, kind of thing. So that is what that is. And the developer who just bought the 150 acres right to the north, that shares the dam property, is going to join us that day too. And then we're all going to sit down together, John and that guy and I. And so there is stuff going on over there. Still only semi-visible, but that's going to change, I think, soon.
You know the tentative plans of the developer of the 150 acres?
Sort of. We have the expired subdivision that was approved, so we know where the old footprint was. I did a quote unquote green line of the property, just for giggles one day, trying to exclude all of the area, like every single possible area that might be sensitive on that parcel, and showed it to him. And it seemed to be pretty close to what he already had in mind. The original plan was 47 homes on acre lots. The zoning in that area now will support much smaller lots. I have not seen his density plan yet, but I think it's reasonable to assume he's probably going to go down to half-acre lots, at least, to maximize his profit, but in the same footprint. And he is talking about some forward-facing, public amenity, mixed use, cafe, shops, whatever, on the portion that fronts onto Route 12 right next to drafters. But I have not seen his actual concept plan yet. That's just something that we verbally batted around last week or the week before, him and me and Dave Held from Provost and Rivera. And I expect they're going to have a concept rendering pretty soon.
Is Marla aware of all of this?
She is, and I have to continue to speak with Marla about this.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head in dismay. The new zoning regs allow this.
Well, we can talk about that, offline too.
Yeah.
It's exactly within the area that is targeted for density, because of its access to sewer and water.
But it's a highly sensitive area between the pond and wetlands up there.
Yeah, I can show you the concept on it, Bernie. He's not going to get anywhere near there.
Okay.
He's very aware of how sensitive that area is. And not only is talking about including the easement to the town, which of course he has to, but I showed him the overlay for the NDDB area, which didn't exist at the time that the last, or at least we didn't have access to see it online at the time of the expired subdivision regulations. So I've showed him that, and showed him exactly where I think he should be avoiding, including Lily Pond.
Yeah.
There's another little oddball wetland there. We don't know what that is. I said, I want to know what this is. And even including something as simple as a couple of patches of prime farmland soil, which I said, look, you can use it. Why don't you use it for, community garden or
Right.
something that is green space. So he is super responsive. I wouldn't be worried that he's going to come in there and do something destructive.
Can you share? I mean, it's public record if he owns it. Who can you share who he is?
Yeah, his name is Mike Lickamel. He's got a bunch of different LLCs.
Is he local or out of the area?
Eastford, I think he lives
Okay.
in. He's
All
from
right.
Connecticut.
That's relatively local.
So,
All right. Thank you.
so the meeting that you have with Deep and EPA and this guy, like, is there any benefit of members of MSRAC attending if they are available?
I
Or-
think maybe maybe just you as chair, Janet. Like I say, this is a precursor to what we're hoping is going to be another sort of more public and, oh, here comes Amy. Something more along the lines of what we did in June of 19. You know, elected officials and walkthroughs and press. This is really more to familiarize DEEP and the new DEEP and new EPA staff who are assigned to the job.
Okay, well, just then let me know when the date is and I'll check my schedule. See if I
It's
can make-
April 20, it's Wednesday, April 20th.
Oh, Wednesday, April 20th.
Mhm.
Actually, can you email me that? I don't even have a pencil here.
I will do that right
I'm
this
not at
second.
I didn't want to disturb my office, so I came downstairs. So I'm not at my regular desk. Let's see, what else? Okay, so that contract for the cleanup of the mill is going well, like getting that written up with,
It's moving slowly, but it is moving. Town council needs to send us back a draft of a pass-through agreement. Slater has seen DECD's proposed general agreement between the town and the agency. But before they can formalize it, they need the pass-through agreement, and there was one other piece they needed, which is escaping me right now, but the pass-through is the most important. And I haven't seen that back from Slater yet, although he did confirm he is working on it for me as recently as Monday.
okay, so it's moving in the right direction, right? There hasn't been any roadblocks.
Oh, now I remember what the other piece is. No roadblock per se. One of the required pieces is a letter of determination about prevailing wage from the Department of Labor. We do have that, but there is some ambiguity in it, which is making Pam and Wayne very uncomfortable. I believe Wayne, as a part of the Brownfield working group, which has been sort of advising DECD generally on this topic, is trying to get some better clarity out of DECD about, you know, when and where prevailing wage is going to apply to some of these jobs, because there is, from Pam's and John's and Wayne's point of view, some jeopardy built into the language as it exists. So I also happen to know that pretty much every other grantee who is working on a pass-through is having this same problem. So it's not like we're unique here, but it is sort of, we still haven't signed the agreement because we can't assemble all the pieces fully.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more information to share on the River Mill, or questions or comments? Okay, then I guess we can move along to committee business item D, Blaine Road intersection paving and the LID grant.
Just in terms of the grant, I know Dan is, I think it's almost 2 weeks ago now that Dan said he was resubmitting the scope of work on that grant to narrow it to the pavers at the library, the pervious pavers at the library, and the LID measures for the Blaine Road bump out. I haven't heard back from him since. I mean, it's their grant and their thing. I know Eric Thomas came back with some questions. It seemed like he was leaning towards having them do the original scope of work. But Dan confirmed in an email back to me that he also thinks that what we're proposing is a better use, but I don't know where that is. And Amy can report on what's going on with the DPW end.
When Amy's not with, oh, yes, she is, sorry.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
That's okay. I slipped in. So I have spoken with our new public works director to make the Blaine Road intersection a priority.
Thank you.
You're welcome. He's starting work on April 18th, so that'll be one of the first tasks that he reviews.
Sweet, thank you.
Great. I'm glad you found someone.
I am too.
All right. So, yeah, and so if Sophie, if they have any questions or whatever, I mean, I think I know, I know, I don't know how organized the files are there over the, but I think I have copies of the PDFs of the design plans that Provost and Rivera did that were approved by the state. If anybody needs any hard copies, if he needs any hard copies or, you know, can't put his hands on where they are in the DPW computers, let me know.
Okay.
So, is there any other committee business under MSRAC? Are there any member comments?
I guess
I'm
if I
just-
had one thing, Janet, kind of like our arts and crafts the other day, I'd love to do arts and crafts on 6:30 with you and Wayne sometime. You know, to essentially develop concept plans so that if Peter does have interested parties, or if it does become a case where either the town or the land bank has possession of it, that we can actually actively promote some concepts for the site, as opposed to just, you know, laissez-faire, tossing our hands up and say, yeah, whatever.
Janet, do you have 3D outdoor software to generate image views of, you know, potential layouts?
No, I don't. I only work in 2D,
Yeah,
but it still is something, and that kind of is interesting with the floodplain, because right now the floodplain went up in elevation as well on 630 in addition to 929. It didn't go up as much. And so if FEMA does revise, you know, the whole French River hydraulic model, it could affect 630 as well as 929. So, I mean, we could do something now, but the floodplain could change in a couple months. But yeah, I could put together some stuff if you schedule a meeting with Wayne, and we could, you know, at least have a plan view of the buildable area with the floodplain and everything.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that on the 20th,
Okay,
because we'll all be there. And
okay,
then we can set some time together after that.
sounds good. So I think we're up to adjournment of this MSRAC meeting, so we can open up the bar grant meeting at 9:25. So the first item is the approval of the bar grant minutes from March 11th, 2022. Can I have a motion?
Yes.
Is that Steve?
Yep.
Any mistakes in this one, Steve?
I didn't see any, no, Jen.
Okay, great.
I didn't either.
Any, can we second the motion?
Joanne will.
Okay, so Steve moved to approve, Joanne seconded. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Item 3, correspondence.
Well, I guess I'll call this correspondence. I just sent in the last payment request on the bar grant. So I've been back and forth with DECD. So this should actually be your last bar grant meeting, because the grant is now, or as soon as they pay it out, will be fully expended.
Yeah, that's great, because we've been kind of hanging on with this special subcommittee for a long time, and I would, it'll simplify things a lot if we just have one agenda, and we will move the item of the lots of Route 12 sidewalk project to the regular MSRAC agenda, as that becomes a construction project and it's no longer funded by the bar grant, it's the LOTSA project. So maybe we should have a motion to formally close the bar grant or the bar
So moved. I
subcommittee.
agree. I think it's a good idea. I'll make the motion.
And then it can be in our official minutes. So Steve, I saw your name highlight up there. Are you seconding?
Yeah, I'll second that.
So all in favor of discontinuing the bar grant portion and discussing all business under MSRAC, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. We'll have one agenda moving forward, and if we get another bar grant in the future, we can reconvene.
All right.
Any other correspondence? Number 4, citizens' comments. Number 5, committee business, LOTSA Route 12 sidewalk project.
Well, we have 2 bids in hand for, or proposals, I should say, for the construction, administration, and inspection. Our original plan was to have those bids opened this past Tuesday, but there was a single error in a single drop-down menu on the state website when the RFP was posted that indicated the due date was the 14th. So we're just going to hold it open. I mean, all of the paperwork itself is correct. So I presume that we actually won't get any more bids in, but to be fair, we're going to hold it open for proposal submissions through next Thursday, the 14th, and then the opening of bids will be at the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 19th. And then we need to decide who is reviewing and choosing.
Well, it won't take as long to review them since there's only 2 consultants. On our other projects, we had, boy, like 6 or 8 proposals to review. So,
Well, we had more submissions and we narrowed it down, I think, to 7 maybe in the end,
yeah.
something like that.
Well, I know
Like-
it says in the RFP that there's certain people who were going to be on the committee. So are
No,
those people?
we took that out because we didn't know what the status would be of the DPW director when we posted it. So there's no reference to who is reviewing, just that
Okay.
it will be reviewed.
In my opinion, the new DPW director should be one of the most important people on the review committee because they'll be working probably pretty closely, potentially even on a daily basis with the construction inspector.
Agreed.
Jump in the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's going to be you, me, and DPW. The question is, do we need more than 3 to review these?
If it
This is
If it
just,
doesn't say so in the RFP, then I would say no. I mean, what, Amy, what's your thought on that?
I think the 3 of you is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then if it's not written in any policy that there has to be more, then 3 should be fine. And like I said, there's only 2 proposals, so this should be a lot quicker process than some of the ones we've done in the past. We have a scoring sheet, so I mean, I assume we'll still use that. We'll all get copies of the 2 proposals and we'll use the scoring sheets and get together and
Mhm.
make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
So if that's the case, then we would expect, let's see, based on the calendar, which I had behind me. So if we're opening on the 19th, we could theoretically return a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen for their meeting on the 3rd of May.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
And Tara, just to point out, I may be canceling my meeting on the 19th and rescheduling it for the 20th, depending on whether Board of Finance is meeting on the 19th. because
Oh.
currently that's their plan.
Okay.
And that's the date they're hoping to finalize the budget. So I thought, okay, well, we'll move our meeting to the 20th potentially. And that way, yeah.
Okay,
you know,
so
we can-
as long as it appears on the agenda,
Right. Yeah, it will.
yeah, then I can just email whomever, if that ends up being the case, that it's,
Right.
you know, a delay of one more day, that's all.
Yeah.
I do suggest that somebody contact those two consultants and let them know, because they could be like kind of waiting with bated breath,
I already
not
did.
knowing there's an extra 10 or 15 days delay.
Yeah, I already did. I
Sweet.
mean, Yu Yang was one of them, and he dropped it off in person and then came in to say hi. So we already knew we were going to do that. So I told him both formally in an email and
Okay.
informally in my office, and I emailed the other as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's definitely the considerate thing to do, so they're not just waiting for and not knowing what's going on. And the actual construction contract is out to bid. I think everybody did know that, but remind me again, when's the bid opening on that? I think that's,
Off the top of my
it
head,
might be that same meeting in May.
it might be, but I
Okay.
need to look at the bid on the
Okay,
website because
that's
it was
okay.
not top of mind.
Within a few weeks anyhow, we should have the not actual construction numbers in.
Yeah, it was posted on April Fool's Day. And yes, it was planned for that same meeting because the due date is the 2nd of May at 11 a.m. to give it, you know, everything time to be put on the agenda. So yes, same meeting.
All right, so we'll have a lot to talk about at our meeting in May.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody have any other thing on the Route 12 sidewalk project? Or any other committee business associated with the bar grant? And item 6, member comments.
I did send this morning, I mean, I'm neither a member nor not a member, I guess. I did send over this morning a copy of a proposal that was written up by Certex Broadband based out of Plainfield. This also relates to the 150 acres, but chiefly relates to the bar grant area. Very shortly, there's going to be a federal grant coming out called the Middle Mile Broadband Grant as a part of the IIJA program. And I've known about this for a few weeks. So I contacted Certex because they have a VEEP who lives in town, and we had talked casually about the possibility of some kind of workable proposal for Thompson. What we can't realistically do at this time is expand it to the entire community. From what I understand, it's like $50,000 a road mile to lay or to string out the fiber cable. Obviously, with almost 100 miles of road, that becomes unsustainable. But what we did figure was that we could do essentially a municipal loop, the main function of which is actually to connect the municipal buildings. I mean, the school and the town sort of are on the CEN broadband network, but from calling town hall the center point, going up Route 12 to hit the library, and then further north on 12 to loop over Buckley Hill and expand that access all down that road so that it hits the DPW garage, which is going to be important when the EMS facility comes online there for sure. And then looping back down 200 to 12. And any household within that footprint would then be able to connect, and it would essentially become a community-based broadband service. So it would be a competitor to what I guess is Spectrum, is the only other game in town. And I forwarded that proposal over to you. Almost immediately after they created that proposal, the 150 acres came back into play, and that and it's right outside the footprint that we had previously established. But this developer, Mike Lickamel, has a company that he also works with on his developments to bring in broadband. So now we're all talking, and this other company, which is called Connected Cities Integration, ConCities is their website. We had a call yesterday to try to find sort of the connective tissue, so how we could all work together. This second company, ConCities, has a lot of experience in putting together grant proposals and seeking out funding. Because the hitch for us on the federal grant is they all require some match funds. We can't use the ARPA for it because it would be fed to fed. You can't match federal to federal. So where would that come from? So, you know, describing the public-private partnership are the other ways to sort of ferret out some funding to make the match, to then put a really complete grant application together, appears to be the way we're going to go. So we figured out that the base number of households that would have immediate access would be somewhere around 550. That does not include the 300 apartments for Riverside Drive or whatever goes into the 150 acres. So that could almost double if both of those. And the point of that is the more households that get connected, the better the cost scales when it becomes the community-based utility, essentially.
Does the North Groverdale neighborhoods fall into that footprint?
Let me see, I can bring up the mock-up. Hang on one second and I'll screen share it.
And why doesn't my street?
Well, my street either. We're just outside. Let's see. So I'll show you the original mock-up that I did because I can put my hands right on it.
I'm not too familiar with what you're talking about, Tia. Is the benefit to the town cost savings or quality of service? Or
Both.
both? Okay.
Both. Quality of service, definitely, because one of the complaints we get all the time, right, about one of the reasons we can't get business down here is a combination of cell phone coverage and internet coverage. The cell phone coverage is sort of driven by market forces. And although I won't say there's nothing that we can do there, I would say that our ability to affect that is somewhat limited. The broadband piece is the quality of the cable. So the fiber connection. And I'm learning this stuff as I go, right? So I could very easily be describing this suboptimally, but hold on, let me pull up you guys see that?
It's coming, there it is.
Yeah, so the basic loop that we described, right, was from here up to the library. It would capture pretty much everything in the lots, up looping around the mill, and the original footprint turns here, comes down here, and then so everything within this footprint. And what one of the other selling points on this is when they were in remote learning, what they discovered was that the kids who were on Chromebooks and stuff in this very area had some of the worst connectivity. So that's a selling point to it. It improves the connectivity for future instances where remote learning becomes a standard, or even just, a regular part of the curriculum, even if it's not for emergency basis. But the nodes can also be built out. So if it gets to the point where it's self-sustaining enough to build out, it could come up lane, or it could go the other way up 200. And so you can gradually bring that service to other areas.
Expansion is kind of density based, just like it was with cable and when cable first came in.
Correct. And and there's some good reasons why you would want to start just with your densest area anyway. We get a ton of NIMBYism, right? And NIMBYism, right? And that NIMBYism is based in the outlying districts. So if the benefit is shown in the most important district in terms of the connectivity problems anyway, then the buy-in may gradually grow over time as well. Like people may want to expand the service in a way that we don't have to, sort of impose it at the beginning. Anyway, so that's what we're working on. Beginning stages for sure. The two companies in question have now signed NDAs so that they can talk freely without worrying about proprietary information. And we'll be developing that proposal ahead of a probable federal grant application within the next few months.
Okay. Thanks for that information. And anybody have any questions for Tira about this broadband proposal? Or any other member comments? Right, then we may be able to adjourn a little bit earlier this month, but next month we'll probably have quite a bit to talk about with 2 bid openings in hand, so
Good. Good.
I guess,
And possibly that grant. I mean,
right,
if not that grant, I would say at some point soon, we should probably start talking about 65 Main again too, because that is within the footprint. I don't have any paperwork back from the Fed yet. And I've been concentrating on the DECD Brownfield grant. I was told that paperwork could take months, so I'm not concerned yet. But once we have the DECD grant fully signed and executed, I'll start pestering the Fed.
well, plus the appeal for the FEMA should be really hot, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about with that too, because that's really important
Yes, ma'am.
that be undertaken. Okay, so let's adjourn this month, and we'll see everybody in May. We'll shoot for a meeting in person at the town hall, and maybe we can do a hybrid. I don't know what the state laws are gonna be or what COVID's gonna be doing, but for now, we'll assume we'll be in person.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Okie dokie. All right.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Have a good
If
weekend.
we're in person, can we assure that everyone there is vaccinated?
We can request it, but we can't. There's no legal way to demand it.
Well, that'll determine my presence at a live meeting, so.
Okay,
Thanks, Bernie.
Okay,
thanks.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
thanks.
Bye.